Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware. I'm James Moser, your worship associate this morning. We welcome you who are in the room and we welcome you who are tuning in online to join us on this Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of you to whom it applies, and a gratitude day for all of the rest of us who have or have had mothers. It's where we started. We wouldn't be here without. On this day, we're grateful to be able to celebrate one of our mission priorities at First Unitarian, and that is ILYA, the Independent Young Adults. Right. ILYA is what you need to remember, Independent Young Adult. Right, and we assist these young people in the transition from foster care to the next stage in their lives. More about that a little later. We're also pleased today to have our children present, and they will be cheerfully presenting our music for us in just a moment under the direction of Sarah Barlow, with the assistance of Kathy Harris. Let us prepare to worship.
Children are going to sing it once, and then if you guys could join us a second time so we can lead you, we'd really appreciate it. Okay?
So, good morning. I'm the Reverend Larry Piers, minister here at First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, but I aspire to one day be part of the children's choir. I'm going to keep trying and trying out for it. For our welcoming words today, we want to honor that the very first Mother's Day was founded as a Mother's Peace Day by Julia Ward Howe, a Unitarian woman, in 1870. So our call to worship is a call to peace. And it has some motions, some hand motions that go with it, because I am trying to be part of the children's choir at some point. So I'll teach it to you, and then we'll sing it. So there'll be words like peace within me, peace before me. Let's just try those motions. Peace within me, peace before me, peace to the right of me, peace behind me, peace to the left of me, peace above me, peace below me, peace within me. Oh, you guys are just so great. So please stand and let's join in singing along with the motions, Peace Be With Us.
Peace be with me, peace before me, peace to the right of me, peace behind me, peace to the left of me, peace above me, peace below me, peace within. Peace be with you, peace before you, peace to the right of you, peace behind you, peace to the left of you, peace above you, peace below you, peace within. Peace be with us, peace before us, peace to the right of us, peace behind us, peace to the left of us, peace above us, peace below us, peace within. Peace be with us, peace before us, peace to the right of us, peace behind us, peace to the left of us, peace above us, peace below us, peace within. Peace within, peace within, peace within.
This morning is by the Barlow family.
If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to join me by lighting it. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
Now, as you're able, please rise and let us sing together hymn number 1051 in the turquoise hymnal, and remain standing after the hymn for the affirmation.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreaming. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations, seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. Daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Please join me now in our unison affirmation. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action. You may be seated.
Oops. I don't want my phone up there.
Today is Mother's Day. Many of us are blessed with a parent who mothered us. Many of us are fortunate to have been found by someone who mothered us. Many of us are grateful for the opportunity to mother someone. And that reminds me of a story about a wolf pup and a polar bear. One year, as the big freeze ended and the big melt came, one young wolf pup found itself on a sheet of ice spinning out to sea. Frightened and unsure, the pup slid into the water and swam until it reached land. Exhausted, it burrowed into a snowbank, alone and afraid, calling out for its mother until eventually the pup fell asleep. The pup woke to the feel of a cold nose against its fur. The smell was familiar. It was a polar bear. "You aren't my mother," said the pup. "I am not your mother," said the polar bear, "but I can cuddle you and keep you safe." The pup was shy and frightened. "Aren't you going to eat me?" it asked. "Nope," said the polar bear. "Climb on my back and I will take you to my den." The wolf pup stretched up a paw cautiously and climbed onto the polar bear's back. In the den, the polar bear licked and cleaned the pup. "I am not your mother," said the bear, "but I can feed you and keep you warm." The next day, they set off across the tundra. "Where are we going?" asked the pup as they neared the water. "I am not your mother," said the polar bear, "but I can show you where to catch fish." The sun shone down on the crisp, crackling snow, and the polar bear rolled in a snowbank. "Come on," the bear said to the pup. "I am not your mother, but I can play with you." But when the wolf cub pulled too hard on the bear's fur, the bear growled. "I am not your mother, but I can tell you when you are being hurtful." Then the bear nuzzled the pup and tickled its tummy. The earth turned round and round, and the big freeze came, followed by the big melt, until the polar bear nudged the wolf, who wasn't a pup any longer. "I am not your mother," said the bear, "but I know it's time for you to go." The polar bear nuzzled the wolf one last time, and the wolf nuzzled the bear back. The wolf walked out into the wide world. The wolf howled up at the midnight sun, which glowed on the horizon, where day ended and night began. And the wolf was answered by another wolf. Soon, the wolf was leading its own pack. Until one day, the wolf came upon a polar bear cub huddled in a snowdrift. "Where is your mother?" asked the wolf. The cub didn't know. The wolf sniffed at the cub and rubbed its fur with a wet nose. "You are not my mother," said the cub, cowering. "I am not your mother," said the wolf, "but I can cuddle you and keep you warm. I am not your mother, but you can stay with me until you're big enough to be on your own." And now, please join me in singing our children out. The words will be on the screen. And if the children will please wait for me at the back. Thank you. Come on.
For you shall go out in joy, for you shall go out in joy, and come back in peace, and come back in peace.
Let us join together now in a time of prayerful meditation. With a prayerful awareness, may we feel the deep pulse of this very moment. within us, and around us. Let us acknowledge whoever we are, whatever gender or age, that we have within us a mothering attentiveness and a mothering heart. A heart that is being called forth again and again into this world. Can we hear the cries of our time? Can we pay attention to what is calling us towards care? Can we open our minds, our imagination, and our heart to what's beckoning us to respond? Can we hear the cries of our time and awaken rather than roll over into sleep? Can we find the ways that we are called to provide soothing and strength, comfort and challenge, weaning and wisdom? For those we can see, hear, feel, and touch, and for those whose cries come to us from distant places. For those we will never know, and for those we know all too well. For those who carry the pain and trauma of past generations within their own bodies and souls, can we be that mothering presence to what wants to be birthed in and through us, with gentle hands, with courageous hearts, with strong conviction? Can we awaken? Can we arise? Can we embody a real and holy presence that works through us and within us and as us, to address social ills directly, to bring forth a world where each of us can be instruments of peace again and again? So in this silence, this shared silence that follows, let us be with this presence. Let us gather through this presence. Let us be instruments of this presence. So may it be. Amen. Each week we do take time during our service to hear from one another, to hear the concerns that we are holding in our own heart, to hear the joys that we might be sharing, and not want to keep to ourselves so that we never have to feel alone in what we care about or what we celebrate. So let's take a moment, attend to our own hearts, and listen to what it is that we are holding there. And if you care to do so, you may speak aloud into this room, first, whatever concerns you might have, or write them in the chat. So, what are the concerns you're holding in your heart today? Alongside whatever concerns we might have, there might be tucked in somewhere a joy as well that you would like to share. So let's take a moment now to share and celebrate with one another whatever joys we may be holding today. What are those joys? Mothers. Being a grandmother, okay. Oh, the young adults in ILYA. A completed asylum application. Do I see Ed Ostrom back here? That's a celebration. Where are the flares that I want to send up? It's great to see you, Ed. So for all the names that were spoken and those that remain unspoken, may they find peace and healing this day as we sing together, "Comfort Me."
Comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort
As I mentioned earlier, before Mother's Day was celebrated the way that we celebrate it today, tend to celebrate it, it was organized by mothers to express their common concern for the immediate and lingering effects of war on women, children, families, and indeed society as a whole. Indeed, the first Mother's Day was a Mother's Day of peace, established by the Unitarian Julia Ward Howe in response to her deep concern about war. In Julia Ward Howe's Mother's Day proclamation of peace in 1870, she was organizing a collective response to a common concern about the carnage of the Civil War, and she called for a General Congress of Women to promote peace. It's not an exaggeration to say that Howe's concern for the common good and her work for peace was a direct outcome of the Unitarian faith that she discovered in her adulthood. Julia Ward Howe is among those prophetic women who have called us to take on our broader human religious task, what we might call our mothering capacities, whatever our gender identity, of nurturing and of bringing forth human potential and capacities, and to also minimize those forces of destruction and despair. Another prophetic woman, Jane Addams, who I will be focusing on today, was born in 1860. She's known as a social activist, the founder of Hull House, which I'll be saying more about, a prolific author, a speaker, and a pacifist as well, who is an exemplar of recognizing our care for the common good is a religious task, inseparable from what it means to be religious. I'll say that again because it's going to be on the exam. Our care for the common good is a religious task, inseparable from what it means to be religious. Addams wanted to be a doctor in a time when very few women were doctors, but her own health condition and her father's untimely death meant she had to relinquish this hope, which sent her into a time of deep depression and inner searching for her own purpose in life. A time when the opportunities for women were very limited. But she attended to where she felt called forth, and what elicited in her a sense of concern and compassion. And when she found that purpose, she threw herself into it. And she became an inspiration to many. Now, we often focus on the social and the political philosophy of Jane Addams and the fact that she was a prolific author and a proponent of a pragmatic philosophy. We emphasize her good works through Hull House. She's acknowledged as the founder of modern social work and recognized for her influence in starting the International League for Women and Peace, and the fact that in 1931, she was the first American woman to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. The inner life of Addams and the religious impetus of her work was just as important to her as it was for Julia Ward Howe. Addams developed a unique and individual faith that guided her work. And it's that faith that sustained her even when times got tough. It's that faith that allowed her to stay with it and grounded in the work that she was doing. So she can be an inspiration for us as we ask ourselves what grounds us in the work and the concern that we have for our world. She read the Transcendentalists like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Margaret Fuller. She joined a Presbyterian church and then a Congregational church later on in her life. She attended and she spoke at many Unitarian churches and the ethical culture societies. She developed an approach to philosophy which greatly influenced William James, and she had as well a pragmatic approach to religion, as well as being a developer of pragmatic philosophy. She was inspired by the early pre-Constantinian Christians. Some of you knew them, right? Those Christians who lived a life in which they held everything in common, who understood that their Christianity was a way of life and not just being a member of an organization. She responded to the social gospel movement of her time, which emphasized putting faith into action and following Jesus' example in word and deed to bring about the kingdom of God on earth. She admired the work of Abraham Lincoln, who was actually a friend of her father's. And although she was only a child when Lincoln was assassinated, she often pointed to Lincoln's death as her entree into the life of civic concern and social action. She wrote of Lincoln's influence on her in this way: "In the unceasing ebb and flow of justice and oppression, we must all dig channels as best we may, that at the right moment, somewhat of the swelling tide may be conducted to the barren places of life." And dig channels she did. And reaching out to the barren places of life she did. From her life, good work flowed and flowed. Hull House was one of her finest achievements and was a living example of her ideas and how a moral life and democracy were intertwined. In her book, widely acclaimed, Democracy and Social Ethics, she advocated for a mixing of the diverse members of society together and giving them a wider acquaintance with and participation in the life about them. Addams argued that it was through exposure to different ways of life, struggles, and the needs of many people with whom we share our society that we can develop attitudes of sympathy, respect, and a democratic sense of moral obligation towards one another. Hull House was one of her living examples, one of her experiments in the kind of democracy that I just described, a democracy as a way of life. In 1889, as an idealistic college student, you remember those days, right? I see some of you like, yes, way back when, yes. Well, when she was an idealistic college graduate, Jane Addams and a friend rented a rundown mansion on a derelict strip of Halsted Street in Chicago's West Side. The neighborhood at the time was home to thousands of recently arrived immigrants, Italians and Greeks, Russians, Jews, Bohemians, and Irish, and so forth. Her plan was to use the mansion to improve the lives of these immigrants and the urban poor. She obtained a 4-year lease using her own inheritance and the funds of other donors, including the financial support from her life partner of 40 years, Mary Rosette Smith. The settlement house concept was one that she learned about in her travels to England. It meant that she and others, mostly women, lived among those who they aimed to serve. It meant that they learned from their neighbors about what they needed and went about cooperating with them to bring it about. Unlike the religious missions of their time, Hull House was totally and decidedly secular. First, they started a kindergarten. Then they added a daycare center so that the women in the neighborhood could work. Then they gradually started classes and then an art studio. They held reading groups and sewing classes. They also delivered babies and nursed the sick, prepared the dead for burial, and from time to time sheltered young women from abuse. Over time, Hull House expanded to 13 buildings and became not just a service and cultural center where the urban poor and the middle classes could gather in mutual assistance, but also a place for political and union organizing. Addams initiated a view and a practice of social work that has only recently been reaffirmed by contemporary social workers who in the year 2000 reclaimed their commitments to social justice. In that most recent statement, the International Federation of Social Workers defines social work as a profession which promotes social change, problem solving in human relationships, and empowerment and liberation of people to enhance their well-being. Social work intervenes at the points where people's lives intersect with their environments. Principles of human rights and social justice are fundamental to social work. In doing so, this International Federation of Social Workers articulated an approach to life and to work that Jane Addams had exemplified. Indeed, Addams never called those she was called to serve clients. She called them neighbors, because she and others who joined her at Hull House lived among those they were serving. Indeed, Addams and her colleagues utilized a unique approach in which they listened to the life experiences and needs of their neighbors and found ways to work together in creating a response. This was different than the so-called charity work of other wealthy persons of her time, since there was a mutual accountability and a mutual influence in this work. In other words, they aimed not just to do something for others, but to do something with their neighbors. Addams rejected a conventional approach to charity or philanthropy and instead endorsed what she called a cooperative ideal of mutual assistance. Now, there's a lot for us to learn from Addams' approach as we seek to help others and live out our religion with a concern for the common good. We can learn so much from engaging with those we aim to serve alongside of, by listening to their stories, by focusing on the immediate needs, but also focusing on the systemic issues that can make a difference in the long run. And when I think about the kinds of projects this congregation is involved in, I think of us as people who listen to stories, who try to serve the immediate needs, but also address some of the systemic issues that we know also need to be addressed. When Addams spoke to the National Conference of Unitarian and other Christian churches in 1901 on the topic of the church and the social problem, I kind of wonder, would you have signed up for that talk? She talked about Hull House in this way. A distinct impression can be made upon a neighborhood when you can get a group of some hundreds of people with this object in view to work together for the common good. We have between 3,000 and 4,000 people coming weekly to Hull House. Say 1/3 or 1/4 have the desire to extend the social relation, an interest in pulling all together to make things in the neighborhood better. You get a mass of warmth and kindliness out of the neighborhood itself, which transforms and changes many things which were harsh before. People who live as friends and neighbors constantly find things which are alike to each other, and that those things are stronger than the things which make us different. This gives you a sense of her philosophy and her approach for doing the kind of activism, social work that she did at Hull House. Addams stressed the ideal of a society that is united by its sense of common humanity, and that is based on a notion of universal kinship and the common good. In their most recent book, The Upswing, How America Came Together a Century Ago and How We Can Do It Again, Robert Putnam and Shailene Romney Garrett look back to the progressive era and to Jane Addams for guidance on how to mitigate class division and poverty and become a less narcissistic nation. Addams, Putnam argues, stood for community and cooperation, rejecting the hyper-individualism of the 19th century Gilded Age. Today, he claims, America has become steadily less equal, more polarized, more fragmented, more individualistic, a second Gilded Age. I hear amen. We are living in a time which Robert Reich, in his book entitled Common Good, says that the common good is no longer a fashionable idea. Robert Reich defines the common good as consisting in our shared values about what we owe to one another as citizens who are bound together in the same society. It's a commitment to fundamental ideals and principles. It's respect for the rule of law and democratic institutions. It's a toleration of our differences and a belief in equal political rights and equal opportunity. My friends, one way to revive the common good is for our leaders and our potential leaders to understand that they are trustees of democracy and of the common good. One way to resuscitate the respect for the common good is to hold our leaders and potential leaders to a standard of trusteeship for the common good. I feel a sermon coming on. The question before us today, this week even, is can we really afford potential leadership that has sacrificed the processes and the institutions of American democracy to achieve their personal goals? Ought we to knowingly give an unbridled platform to someone who seeks to entertain and titillate people with their outrageousness, denialism of facts, and disregard of the democratic process? We may need to exercise some judicious choices in order for us and our media to be good stewards of the common good. Are you with me on this? Even before the town hall featuring the former president occurred this week, Michael Fannon, a U.S. Capitol Police officer who was injured doing his job on January 6, 2021, wrote this. Putting him on stage, having him answer questions like a normal candidate who didn't get people killed in the process of trying to end the democracy he's attempting to once again run, normalizes what he did. It sends a message that attempting a coup is just part of the process, that accepting election results is a choice, and that there are no consequences in the media or in politics or anywhere else for rejecting them. To those who dared to watch the so-called town hall this week, and if you did, even out of civic duty, we might sadly not have been too surprised. It meant that we had to watch the disregard for those who died and were injured on January 6th. Is that a care for the common good? It meant that we had to observe the mocking of a woman he was accused of sexually assaulting. Is that care for the common good? It meant that we had to observe the dismissing of the legitimate comments and questions of the woman moderator of the town hall as he called her nasty. This performance and the productions make us all unwitting bystanders to an erosion of a care for the common good, which is the very basis of our democracy. We have a right to care for and to demand the common good be respected. Last August, on his last show on CNN before it was ended, Brian Stelter proposed that it's not partisan to stand up for decency and democracy and dialogue. It's not partisan to stand up to demagogues. It's not partisan to stand up to demagogues. It's required. It's patriotic. We must make sure we don't give platforms to those who are lying to our faces. Now, I want to believe that we can return to a time of decency and democracy, and that the two words belong in the same sentence. That we can all help restore respect for the common good. I want to believe that winning at all cost is too high of a cost to pay, particularly for those, unlike the well-salaried producers of news, who don't often have to feel the real effects of the erosion of care and common decency. As Unitarian Universalists, one of the sources of our living tradition includes this source: the words and the deeds of prophetic women and men, which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. I believe Jane Addams was one of those prophetic voices that challenged us to confront powers and structures of evil. But it is not enough, my friends, to look back at the great women or men of the past if we do not also look directly at ourselves and ask, what will we do to care for the common good now? What will we do to stand forthright in our defense of those victimized and abused by a blatant disregard because of their misuse of the responsibilities of power? What will we do when decency and democracy are shoved aside and we become bystanders of continued abuse and denialism? On this Mother's Day, may we rise to our collective responsibility to uphold the continuous care and nurture of the common good, as exemplified by the life and the work of Julia Ward Howe, and of Jane Addams, and of numerous women and men throughout history. May we inherit their faith and their courage, and may their voices from the past become our voice now, here in the present. So may it be.
For the common good. We can all do something. We have guests this morning who will present something about the common good, representing independent living for young adults, and the people who are both the recipients of that program and those who help to provide it. We have friends to speak to you.
Good morning. As you know, today is Mother's Day. It's also the second Sunday of this particular month, May, and any donations made today will go to our own ILYA program. ILYA stands for Independent Living for Young Adults, which I think you've already heard and probably already know, which began here in this church as an outreach of the Social Justice Committee. I am Kathy Stamm, and my role with ILYA leadership team is as the liaison between DFS, the State of Delaware Division of Family Services, along with the social service agencies with whom DFS contracts to work with their clients in the Transitional and Independent Living Program in Delaware. With me is my friend Odenayo, known as OD, who has been a recipient of ILYA services over most of the last 3 years. OD is currently completing his junior year at the University of Delaware, majoring in civil engineering. I'm not going to say more.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say more because he's going to be answering the questions that I'll ask. OD, please tell us about coming here from your home country of Nigeria.
That was a great experience. I'm Odnayo Gumbor, by the way. For those that don't know my name, I came to the United States in 2016 when I was 14 years old. That was a great experience because I haven't been on the plane at that time. So, yeah, being on there that was great.
It was your first time on an airplane.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
the first time.
You came to a host family,
Yes.
and you were with them for a while you began your high school years at Del Castle, right?
Yes, I was with them for a
Okay.
little bit.
And because you didn't stay with that host family, you were in a youth shelter in Wilmington.
Yes.
How did you feel while you were in the shelter, and what did you learn while you were there?
At first I was kind of nervous, as any other kid would have been. But I saw that as an opportunity to, learn about other people. And at that time, I played basketball for 2 years, and that was an opportunity for me to put the lessons I learned from basketball to use. I learned to be disciplined and only focus on the things I could control at the time. And listening to other kids in the system too, some of them were, abandoned and abused. So I was able to see that, my situation, although I was facing some adversity at the time, there are other kids going through way worse.
I appreciate what you said. You had told me that before, that you found that you felt that you were a lot better off than some of the other youth that you were in the shelter with.
Yes.
And then you were sent or placed in a foster family.
Yes.
And how do you think being in a foster family in high school influenced your relationships with your peers?
For me personally, I became more distant because I don't want to have to explain,
You
myself.
didn't want to have to explain.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks. Can you describe the relationship between you and your foster family now?
It's a great relationship. Before I met them, I was moving from foster homes to foster homes. But since I met them, they provided shelter and, just being there for me. And even now, after I aged out, we're still in touch and talking. And yeah, it's always a great relationship.
And that doesn't always happen, does it?
No, it
No,
doesn't.
a lot of times when youth age out at age 18, no matter where they are in their school year, if they're in school, they're just left out of the house, locked out of the house, put out of the house, and have to fend for themselves. So youth in foster care age out of the system when they're 18 years of age. How did you decide on the University of Delaware as your school, and how did it feel your freshman year as you aged out? Because he was not 18 when he started college.
No. When I aged out, I always liked math and physics and looking to be an engineer. And University of Delaware, as you know, is one of the top engineering schools in the United States. That was a great fit for me. They have a D1 basketball team that I was able to get recruited onto, and yeah, it's been a great experience so far for me, and I think I made a great choice.
Yes. Once you aged out of foster care, you were eligible for ILYA services, as long as you were engaged with an independent living worker with the state. What benefits have you experienced as a client of the ILYA program?
I've experienced a lot of benefits from housing gifts to grants. It just made my college experience a lot more easier. And, some other kids in the system too, I know some of them, lost their parents. So they wouldn't feel lonely during the holidays, and, having that program, not only having a program led by passionate people who care about kids. And yeah, been a great experience.
So I'd like to ask you about your favorite sports. I know mostly basketball. But someone had asked me, do you have any athletes that you admire in particular?
I admire LeBron James. I admire Steph Curry. Both of them played recently. The Lakers won. But yeah, I love basketball. I'm currently playing for the University of Delaware basketball team, and yeah, that's been a great experience for me so far.
How and why did you decide on engineering and then specifically civil engineering?
Moving from Nigeria to the United States, there was a huge difference in infrastructure. Obviously, trying to learn as much as I can here and take it back home, improve the society back there, and someday, after building my foundation.
What are your plans for this summer?
This summer, I'm gonna be working in San Francisco. I'm gonna be working with a company called the Island Group. They help other civil engineering companies and federal agents to build, different buildings. I'm gonna be helping them out, finishing up projects in the airport.
Thanks, OD, for sharing your thoughts and feelings with us. You will be around for a little while after the service, right?
Yes.
Maybe those of you who are present will want to chat for a minute or have a question you might want to ask my friend OD. I also wanted to mention that our friends Ann and Roy Draper, seated in the front row, members of the Unitarian Universalist Society of Mill Creek, who joined me and have joined me 2 years ago in helping to support OD at the beginning of his sophomore year, and they are here with us as well. And the benefit has been, I think, really important in that they've been able to support him at his basketball games on a regular basis and follow him in many ways. So together we work. In closing, we want to thank all of you for your generous contributions to support ILYA's work with young adults over the past 18 years. It's been 18 years. We rely heavily on that generosity to fund the various projects like student care packages, baby supplies, new apartment kits, graduation celebrations, to name just 4 of the 9 projects ILYA does. Please think of OD and others like him as you consider your donations today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy and Odumayo. As you make your gift to ILYA today, be sure to indicate on the check in the notation line that it is for ILYA. And as you consider your continuing commitment and pledge to First Unitarian Church Wilmington, you'll see in just a moment on the screen the 4 ways in which you may make your contribution. Let us join now to dedicate our offering. To the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings.
For young and old, a place at the table, a voice to be heard, a part in the song. The hands of a child in hands that are wrinkled, for young and for old, the right to and God will delight when we are reapers of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God will delight when we are reapers of justice and joy, 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 joy. For everyone born, a place at the table, to live without fear and simply to be, to work, to speak out to witness and worship. For everyone born, the right to be free. And God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, compassion and peace. Yes, God will delight when we are creators of justice and joy, justice and joy, justice and
Chalice at home, we invite you now to extinguish it with us here to these words. Our candle of love, justice, and joy goes out, but we carry those gifts in our heart for the common good.
As we prepare for our closing song after the benediction, I want to remind you that we have a display about ILYA in the parish hall, people that you can talk to about the program. Also, some nourishing things to eat are there, and a beautiful setup of flowers and food and so forth. So let's celebrate the work of ILYA today by learning more about it and interacting with each other about this particular ministry of the church. The closing hymn, which we'll sing after the benediction, is entitled, "We Are Dancing Sarah's Circle." For those of you who are new to this congregation, you might not know that every time we sing this song, we gather hands together and we dance out while we're singing. Right? It's a time-honored tradition. So the closing words, and I'll be at the head of the conga line. Our benediction are these words from Dorothy Sell, a Christian German liberation and feminist theologian. God has no other hands than ours. If the sick are to be healed, it is our hands that will heal them. If the lonely and the frightened are to be comforted, it is our embrace, not just God's, that will comfort them. Let's rise, and you, as you're willing or able, dance as you are willing and able. As we sing, we are dancing Sarah's Circle.
Sisters, brothers.